Welcome to Learn and Master Piano. I'm Will Barrow, and I'll be working with you throughout this series to get you connected to the piano and engaged in the joy of music making. The piano is the most expressive instrument I know. On its broad musical canvas, it can paint anything from storm and thunder to the rippling of a stream. Emotionally, that canvas is even broader. From jazz to pop, honky-tonk to gospel, and ragtime to blues, there's nothing that's been dreamt in the human heart or conceived in the imagination that can't be expressed at the piano. It doesn't matter whether you gave up on lessons years ago or know your way around the keyboard pretty well. Learn and Master Piano is designed to take you from the basics to Beethoven and every step along the way. Whatever your interest, level of expertise, or motivation for beginning this journey, you'll find plenty of valuable musical insight that will help equip you to become the piano player that you want to be. It's the joy of putting my hands on the piano and the enjoyment of the feel and sound of it that captured my imagination and made me fall in love with it. It's a love affair that's lasted 35 years, and every day reveals more of its endless possibilities. On the piano, even the simplest things you play can become mesmerizing. I'm constantly amazed at how a combination of notes, combined with rhythm and changes in intensity, can produce an infinite variety of music. We'll be learning many chords and melodies and how to put them together so you have something to say when you sit down at the instrument. How you put these musical elements together depends on what kind of songs you want to play and what sounds resonate most with you at the piano. Your playing will become an expression of who you are and a statement of your own musical individuality. As we explore topics like the physicality of piano playing, how to practice, and how the piano is played in different musical styles, I hope the process of learning will captivate you. As with any worthwhile journey, this one will be full of challenges, but with patience, persistence, and practice, an exciting world of music will be open at your fingertips. My goal is to get you playing the piano and loving it, and to keep you playing the piano and loving it for the rest of your life. Come on into the studio and let's get you connected to the piano. Welcome to the first session of Learn and Master Piano. We're about to begin a journey that will take us into a world of chords, melodies, rhythm, and the physicality of playing this unique instrument. Before we get started, let's talk about what you'll need to use the chorus. First, you'll need an 88-key acoustic or digital piano. If you have a smaller keyboard, you can get started with that, but we're going to be covering material that covers the full range of an 88-key keyboard, so eventually you'll want to have one of those. You'll also need a way to see and hear the DVD while playing and hearing the piano, a reasonably tuned piano if it's an acoustic one, otherwise pitches on the keyboard and combinations of notes won't sound right. You'll need a metronome, which is the time-keeping device that will help us play with a steady pulse and help us gauge how fast to practice stuff. Here are some of the best ways to use the materials in the course. Go through the course without skipping around, even if material seems familiar. Many concepts, tunes, progressions, and rhythms in later sessions are based on stuff covered in earlier sessions. If material covered is easily mastered, move on more quickly to the next session. Use the workshops following each session to organize practice time and hone the new concepts covered in the session. And keep an open mind about new styles of music and different approaches to the piano. Be patient and enjoy the process of discovery and the small victories of mastering and playing simple things. Rome wasn't built in a day. If a particular piano skill is too hard, even after careful practice over a period of weeks, then master the simplest part of what you're working on and move on. Don't judge yourself or your progress. Let the feel and sound of the instrument and the joy of discovery motivate you. In this session, we're going to begin by showing you how the piano creates sound, how the vast landscape of the piano keyboard is laid out, and how your body connects with the instrument to make that sound. We're going to learn a simple 5-finger exercise to get our fingers moving, and we're going to learn our first chord progression. So let's get started. We'll start with how the sound is made by the piano and take a quick look inside of this beast. There's a physical chain of command in the mechanism of the acoustic piano. When a key is struck, it activates a lever at the end of that key that's attached to a hammer. The hammer inside of the piano strikes a string, which is attached to a soundboard. In the case of this piano, the soundboard's underneath the piano. The vibration of the string and resonance of the entire soundboard in the instrument create the sound you hear. If you're playing an acoustic piano, there are also some pedals down by your feet. Some pianos have 2 pedals and some have 3. The right pedal is the one that you're going to be using the most, and it's called the sustain pedal. What the sustain pedal does is to make the sound of the piano keep ringing when you hold the pedal down after striking a note. I've stopped playing the note, but the piano keeps ringing because I've got the pedal down. If you don't have an acoustic piano, you may be playing an electric keyboard or a digital piano. If so, the process of making the sound on these instruments is a little different. On an electric keyboard, the digital piano sound is a digital representation or sample of the acoustic sound, and its sound comes through speakers, an amp, or headphones. The character and quality of the digital piano sound is determined by the quality of the piano sample and the quality of what that sound is amplified through. If you're playing a digital piano, it's great to get to an acoustic piano when and if you can to experience the actual mechanics and organic sound of the instrument that your sample is reproducing digitally. A digital piano or keyboard should have a pedal that can be plugged in and used as a sustain pedal. The piano is laid out in a repeating series of 12 pitches, and in each series there are 5 black and 7 white keys. The black keys are in groups of 2 and 3, and each black note has a white note just below it to the left and to the right. From time to time as we go along in this course, I'm going to be highlighting key thoughts as nuggets. These nuggets are important core concepts and ideas for each session that I want you to pay particular attention to. And that brings us to our first nugget, which is you can use the arrangement of the black notes in groups of 2 and 3 to orient yourself at the piano's keyboard. The piano's white notes are named by letters A to G, and they're the only letters of our musical alphabet. These letters move up the keyboard, which is from left to right. The lowest note on the piano, or any 88-note keyboard, is an A down here. And that A starts our musical alphabet. Moving up from there, we have B, C, D, E, F, and G. And then we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and the same series continues all the way up the keyboard until you get to the very top of the instrument, which is a C on any 88-note keyboard. So now we're going to use these groups of 2 and 3 black keys to find the white notes and name their letters of the musical alphabet. So here's how to find any A on the keyboard. Go to a group of 3 black notes. We'll take these 3 right in the middle of the piano. and go to the note that's the top of that group of 3 black notes. Next, go just below that top black note, just below it and to the left, to the white note, is an A. And in this way, you can find any A on the piano. Go to any group of 3 black notes, go to the top note of that group of 3, and go to the note just below it and to the left, and we have another A. In the same way, you can find any of the other white notes by their proximity to the black notes. So to find a B on the keyboard, let's go back to that group of 3 black notes. Find that top note of the group of 3, and then go to the white note, this time just to the right and above it. That's a B, and that's true of any B on the keyboard. You can find it by going to 3 black notes. This time we'll go down a little bit to 3 black notes. And the note just above the top group of that 3 is a B. The next note we want to find in this way is the note C, which you can find by locating any group of 2 black notes and finding the note just below them and to the left. So here's 2 black notes, and we're going below and to the left of the bottom of that group of 2, and that's a C. And this is true going up the piano or going down the piano. This C in the middle of the piano is an important one, and it's called middle C. Middle C will become an important orientation point from here on out. We'll use middle C to gauge where we sit at the piano and to find the notes that we're going to play. We'll deal with naming and playing the black notes soon, but for now they'll just help us to find the white notes. So let's stay with that group of 2 black notes to find D and E. If we go to the top black note of that group of 2, just underneath it and to the left is D, and underneath it and to the right is E. Go back to the group of 3 black notes, and we'll finish the musical alphabet with F and G. Find the lowest of the 3 black notes, and underneath it and to the left is F, and underneath it and to the right is G. So here's our musical alphabet, A through G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Here's a little musical bit using A through G, the letters of the musical alphabet. Let's talk about how best to physically connect to this instrument. Where you sit and how you use your body at the piano has a lot to do with how you play and how efficiently and relaxed you're able to play things. You can start by sitting at the piano so that your navel is roughly even with middle C. This allows room for both hands to move up and down the keyboard comfortably. The left hand will be moving mostly below middle C, and the right hand mostly around and above middle C. Also, you want to be sitting up straight, not slouching. You want to be relaxed, though, not rigid or stiff. You may need to use an adjustable bench, like this one, to be sitting at the right height so that you can sit up straight and your arms and hands will be in the right position. Like the mechanism of the piano, our body has a chain of command when playing the piano. This starts with what we hear and the pulse we feel in our body, in the same way a singer hears a melody before producing it. In the case of a singer, it's breath, activation, and vibration of the vocal instrument that makes the sound. Our body acts as a fulcrum at the piano, and playing it involves our whole body, from our butt up through our back, down our shoulders and forearms and wrists, and out of our fingers. Fingers are like the tip of the whip. And the more relaxed this entire chain is, the better sound we get and the more facility we have. It's important to do some stretching of the back, shoulders, forearms, wrists, and fingers before every time we practice and play. And we'll go over some basic exercises for stretching in the workshop segment. The piano feels different when your entire body's relaxed and plays different when you're using the right part of your body to do the right movement. The fingers are responsible for contacting the keys and for moving from note to note within short distances in one hand position. The fingers in the hand should be curved slightly when at the keyboard, almost as if there's a tennis ball underneath the hand and fingers. The wrists help connect notes when making small changes of hand position. And the wrists come into play when the fingers are spread out. The wrists also allow for repeated strikings of chords or groups of notes, like so. The forearm, upper arm, and shoulder move our hands and wrists up and down the keyboard. And in making these larger moves up and down the keyboard, these muscles farther up the chain are more responsible for the action than the fingers and the wrists. These larger muscles also supply the power and help us get a bigger sound out of the piano. This session's second and very important nugget is this. Different parts of our body, from the shoulder and upper arm down through the forearm and wrists and out of the hand and fingers, are responsible for different actions at the piano. For example, playing Bach tends to use the digital action of the fingers and connective action of the wrists, like this. In contrast, hammering away on a rock and roll tune involves the upper parts of the arm more, not so much the fingers, though the fingers are always the final link of the chain and the part of the body that touches the keys. This style of rock and roll playing, touch may be too genteel a word. Spank is more like it. We'll get into some of that style down the road. So let's go back down the chain to the fingers, and I'll show you how we'll be numbering them to teach fingerings of the stuff we'll learn, and we'll get our hands on the piano to move those fingers and make some sound on the instrument. The fingers are the part of the body that makes contact with the keys, and we'll designate fingers by number. These finger numbers will be used when teaching by rote, and later on they'll be marked on printed music to indicate the proper finger to play the note. The fingers of the right hand are numbered 1 through 5, from thumb to pinky finger going up. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. On the left hand, also 1 through 5 from thumb to pinky, going in the opposite direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. To help us get started moving these fingers, we'll do a 5-finger exercise for the right hand. Put your right hand up on the piano with your first finger, which is your thumb, over middle C, your second finger, or index finger, over D, your third finger, which is your middle finger, over E, your fourth finger, or ring finger, over F, and your fifth finger, which is your pinky finger, over G. Hold your fingers over these 5 notes and notice their proximity to the black notes around them. And remember, your hands and fingers are slightly curved. Now drop your wrist down and allow all 5 notes to be struck at the same time, like this. The sound of this cluster of notes is pretty dense, but right now we just want to concentrate on the feel of these 5 notes under the fingers and the orientation of where they are on the piano. Now we're going to play the 5 notes individually up and down, but first we're learning the overall shape of them visually and by feel. And this is how we'll be learning melodies and chord progressions at first, by shape and feel, as well as by their rhythm and sound. Now let's play the right hand notes individually from 1 to 5, up and down, thumb to pinky and back, slowly and evenly, 1 note per beat. I'll count you off and we'll play together. 1, 2, 3, 4. After you play these notes, drop your hand to your side and relax it, which is something that we'll also be doing periodically to get the tension out of it and to get you ready to play it again relaxed. So let's try that again. This time we'll play the notes up and down twice. 1, 2, 3, 4. And back up again. Now we'll try a 5-finger exercise with the left hand. Place your left hand up on the piano so that your first finger, which is the left thumb, is over middle C. Your second finger is over B. Third finger is over A. Fourth finger over G. And fifth finger over F. Now play all the notes together by allowing your wrist to drop the way we did with the right hand. And feel how the notes sit under each finger in the whole hand. Now let's play the notes individually, starting with middle C, this time down and then back up, slowly and evenly, one note per beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when you're finished, drop your hand to your side and relax your whole arm and hand and take a breath before playing the exercise again. And this time we'll play it down and up twice. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then back down again. You'll notice that the fourth and fifth fingers aren't quite as easy to play usually as the first, second, and third fingers, and this is fine. They'll get more nimble as you work with them. The fourth and fifth fingers don't need to be as strong or as able as the others unless you're playing pretty advanced stuff like more involved classical repertoire. Now that we've played some single notes, let's get into some chords. The piano has the ability to sound more than one note at the same time. It can actually sound as many notes as you can strike, especially when using the sustain pedal, which we'll get into shortly. So, once again, several notes played simultaneously are referred to as a chord. And one of the most important things I want you to get out of this course is a foundation for being able to play chords and accompany songs at the piano. Playing chords and songs involves knowing where the chords are and what they sound like, naming them and knowing how to read their written symbols, and developing different ways of playing them in patterns and rhythms. Now we're going to learn our first chord progression, and when we're done it'll sound like this. This little progression will help us to hear and feel the bass note on the low end and show us what it feels like to play with a steady rhythm. It'll also teach us to play 3 different chords by only changing a note or 2 between chords. Let's start with the left hand part, and we'll refer to its notes as bass notes. So we're going to start with our left thumb on middle C, and now go down the keyboard to the next C, moving down the keyboard. The distance between these C's, from middle C down to the next C, is called an octave. And an octave is the distance between a note and the note of the same name 7 notes higher or lower. For example, here's an A, and here it is an octave higher. Now here's an E, and here it is an octave lower. For this progression, which we're calling our first chord progression, we'll start with the bass note that is the C 1 octave lower than middle C. So first we'll find C, middle C, and we're going to go one octave lower to the C below it. And we're going to play that C with our thumb. And our left hand will be in the same position as when we did our 5-finger exercise, only the whole hand is moved down one octave. So, our first finger, which is the thumb on the left hand, is on C, and our 5th finger is on the F below it. We'll play this C for 4 counts, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll go down to the F below it for 2 counts, 1, 2, and then play the F again for 2 more counts, 1, 2. So the whole thing sounds like this in time. 1, 2, 3, 4. C, 2, 3, 4, and F, 2, 3, 4, and then the same thing again. C, 2, 3, 4, and F, 2, 3, 4, and then we finish back on the C. So let's get an easy, steady pulse going in our mind and body and concentrate on relaxing our left hand. The right hand's hanging down at our side, and I'll count us in, and let's play these bass notes together. 1, 2, 3, 4. C, 2, 3, 4. F, 2, 3, 4. C, 2, 3, 4. F, 2, 3, 4. And then back to C, 2, 3, 4. Now let's check out the right hand part of the progression. The right hand part of the chord progression uses 3 different chords and shapes. So here's our starting chord. The thumb is on the G below middle C. The 3rd finger is on middle C. And the 5th finger is on E above middle C. Play the whole chord and listen to how it sounds. We're going to play this chord 4 straight times in time with the beat, like so. 1, 2, 3, 4. We make the second chord by making a small change in the first chord. Here's the first chord, and the first finger down on G is going to move up a step to A, so that the new chord is this. A, C, and E. And this second chord is played 2 times. So the first chord going to the second chord would go like this. Then we make another small change to form the next chord. To make that third chord in the sequence, we move the top note, which is E, down a step to D, and we're playing that D with the 4th finger, and this chord is played twice also. And the chord is A, C, and D. So the whole progression in the right hand goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it repeats. And resolves back to the first chord. We're going to start referring to units of 4 beats as bars. So this will be a 2-bar progression that repeats once and resolves to where it started. This 2-bar progression contains 3 different chords. The first chord, the second chord, and the third chord. Let's look at the relationship of the 3 right-hand chords. There are 3 different chords to be played. The first, the second, and the third. And the second and third chords are made by changing only 1 note from the previous chord. The first chord goes to the second chord, which goes to the third chord, before going back to where we started with the first chord. So now that we know the 3 chords, let's review how many beats each chord gets. The first chord gets 4 beats. The second chord gets 2 beats. and the third chord gets 2 beats. So the whole thing sounds like this. So now let's practice the left hand bass notes and right hand chords together. Slowly raise both hands to the keyboard and place the right hand over the position of the first chord and the left hand over the position of the first bass notes. Now let's play the first chord for 4 counts and the next 2 for 2 counts each, then repeat the progression and resolve it to the first chord. What we're doing is outlining and establishing the shape of the progression before we fill in the rhythmic details. I'll count us in. 1, 2, 3, 4. The first chord, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then the second chord, 1, 2. And the third chord, 3, 4. First chord, 2, 3, 4. Second chord, 2, 3, 4. And then resolving to the first chord. Now let's try playing one right hand chord per beat, so that we'll play the first chord 4 times with the left hand striking and holding the bass note, and then we'll play the second and third right hand chords 2 times each with 1 bass note per chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's try that progression one more time. I'll count us in and we'll play it together. 1, 2, 3, 4. A few sessions down the road, we'll learn how to play this progression using the sustain pedal to make it more connected. Now here's an important concept when trying to learn something new. If you have a problem changing chords or bass notes in time, or playing them with correct fingering, or you're finding your hands not relaxed, then isolate the place that's hanging you up and slow it down and break it down. For example, if you're having a hard time making the change from the first chord to the second chord, then isolate that change from the first chord to the second chord. Just do that move until you can do it smoothly. Review the fingering and note changes at this move very slowly and then do it in time. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then do the change and then put it in the context of the whole phrase. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's some tips to remember when establishing good practice habits. Focus on small amounts of musical content, keep relaxed, and feel the pulse of the beat. Getting in touch with the sound and feel of the piano will help you feel what it is to connect with what we're working on and all that you practice, learn, and play from here on out. Well, so far we've covered quite a bit of material. We're learning where on the keyboard to find the notes of the musical alphabet, how to move our fingers a bit and how to number them, and how to play a cool little progression with some pulse in it. In the workshop segment, we'll work on these skills in more detail and start making steady progress towards playing the piano. And I'll see you there.